Today, President Trump met with South Korean leader Moon at the White House, and while they were being questioned by reporters, Trump indicated that the summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un possibly may not be this upcoming June 12th, despite previous declarations. People have been seizing on these remarks, and they're asking themselves, what does this mean? And others are just doing rampant speculation. And I am, coming to my own conclusions. Obviously, it's how this usually works. But full disclosure, I've stated multiple times in the past, I'm no fan of Trump. I'm no fan of, just both these parties. That's something that's been clear for a while. But I was really optimistic to the idea of him having some kind of acknowledgement of North Korea, just having some official, equal footing type of involvement with its leadership. Because I think when people exercise a foreign policy that is actually something of worthiness, they're able to acknowledge countries that exist, their various attributes and weaknesses, and they recognize they themselves have areas of default and error, and they try to come together for the sake of just getting something solved. Let me say hello to Simply Deep, who, if his name is what it's supposed to imply, he shouldn't be in this stream. He should be simply deep inside of someone. But it's a story for another day. But I just found it so sad that this was one of the things I was really looking forward to next month, and prior to today, which also included a mention by Trump that he was willing to kind of negotiate around the idea of taking away these nukes, or it's the program in North Korea, whereas before he had said, yeah, get rid of all of it, and that felt to me as if him realizing you're not going to get everything your way, which is how negotiations work. It's just a fact we have to acknowledge. A long story how I came up with that name. Yeah, please fill me on the details. You can send me a private message with the origins of that name. So that'll be very entertaining. The other thing to go into or kind of dissect here is that it's really telling that only weeks before the actual summit, because this has been something that's been announced for a while now, are we seeing this kind of pushed back, demure state of Trump, where he's more so willing to take on a tone that's not demanding in the sense of you must do everything I say or go away. And that might be from some of his advisors whispering, hey, we want what you want, but let's look at this from an angle of just common sense. The people who have what you want are not going to give it up voluntarily. Okay, well, I want to make sure you're not intoxicated right now, because that'll be very concerning. You might write something in that stream I won't be satisfied with. So it's the saddest thing in the world when every plan that seems to put any of these heads of state, whether they're liberal or conservative, on a position to just do something I can get behind, it always feels as if it gets screwed up. You say that, but can you count? Can you recite the alphabets from A to Z? We'll have to see. Can you pass a sobriety test? Have you get your own stream and you have to walk out of the car? So both of those will be applicable here. But it's really disappointing when you sit here and you hope, because as I said, I have no my backing of this idea is from the standpoint of Trump isn't just Trump anymore. It's the symbol of the U.S., the head of state, whose policy toward North Korea will affect how that country deals with us and vice versa, possibly for uh, dozens, if not a century of years. So in wishing for the best with this summit, that was more so being pro American as far as what I aspire to come out of it. And we're not getting that seemingly, and it's just really sad when you can't have ideas that a lot of people rally behind, because it's popular to not go to war, especially when both countries have refused to attack each other than verbal remarks toward each other's leaders. Um, and the dirty little secret you'll never see these commentators on television mention is that politicians, whether they're at the head of state or a secretary, just for whatever position, they will not care about starting any of these conflicts, because they know for fact that no matter how awful it gets, it'll never be their son or themselves that has to go out there and get stabbed and blown to pieces over some dispute that wasn't even worth, the time that was put into that war. And I really despise the fact that's seen as strength. Trump telling the North Korean leader, "Oh, my missile button is bigger than yours," is people will laugh at that, and to the point of almost forgetting you're effectively threatening nuclear war with this man, or some conflict that will result in loads and loads of casualties, where both of you will be safely whisked away and not have to worry about being torn to pieces. So it's very aggravating, and I just hope that the people who are in charge of this, even though I don't have that much faith in them, given the records that they've shown, are able to cut past the ridiculousness of what they want, and just come to concessions. And I'm not more so worried about. I'm more so worried about the National Security Advisor Bolton, that despicable, awful man, than I am Trump, because he's been sitting up there trying to get regime change in North Korea for the last few months. It's been something that he's been on record as being in favor of, from his statements and other claims he's made. And remember, it wasn't even, 2 weeks in his tenure before we started bombing Syria. So he has more influence than he tries to let on. And if this thing falls to pieces, I expect us to hear about the role he played in another, maybe, if this were the 50s, 3 to 4 years, if not 2 to 3 weeks, based off of these leaks that are coming out. Old School says, yeah, exactly. All nukes should be abolished. It would spell disaster and possibly the end of humanity if war breaks out. I agree. They need to be gotten rid of. Problem is, people have this thing where they think that by having weapons like this, they're defending themselves. See, the scary thing is that because we live in a world where you have all these different ideologies and people don't really care about the long-term ramifications of having these kind of weapons, I can't even entirely fault North Korea for keeping on to theirs. They're a smaller country than the U.S., and they have had various hawkish American governments for the last few decades. So they're trying to hold on to what one thing could tip this in their favor, or at least give them a fighting chance against a much larger American army, military rather. Wicked Gesture says, yeah, it's all a game to him. Let me say a little bit, Dirk. Dirk, I was getting ready to close this out because people weren't really speaking. It was just me and Simply Deep talking about how he got his name and the origins of all of his monikers. So we were getting ready to close this out. But I that's a running theme. Whenever you get ready to turn the stream off, people start showing up. Yeah, I told him at the beginning of the stream, you shouldn't be watching this. You should be getting deep in whoever that was that inspired that name. He told us what singer it was in the messages, but she's married, so that's probably the reason. So, really, to kind of take a, no, I feel is bluffing. Yeah, Dirk, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have the mass nuclearization or whatever they're claiming, but um, I do think that they're smart enough to know getting rid of the one thing that puts you in line with the U.S. in terms of your arsenal. They're acutely aware would lessen their chances of not having regime change forced upon them by the U.S. or someone else. Um, Dirk said, "Okay, old school is giggling." I like how old school left a comment on the last stream right at the last minute. As I was turning it off, he left some like paragraph. Didn't even get to read it before it just went off. I did not see it at all. Um, but America shouldn't call it. I saw that. Yeah, well, I barely saw it. It showed up right as it was over. Being the 11th hour ranger yet again, showing up all the way at the conclusion. We reached the final stretch and then it's all concluded. Um, I'm trying to think of what else I want to add. Again, I'm really not concerned whatsoever about Trump having any serious concessions or serious reservations where he's going to say, well, they're not going to do this for me because Trump, in my opinion, doesn't even have any kind of hardline ideology. It's just Bolton and it used to be Bannon whispering things in his ear, along with Pompeo. Even Tillerson, for as much flack as I gave him, was right on a couple of things. I was saying that we were losing download. All right, I'll read this after the stream is over. Thank God that YouTube allows for replays of live stream chat rooms, so you can see what people were saying. I don't know who told them it was a good idea to just have it to where I say I have to read out your comment for it to have even been known that you commented. So they're all over the place. So that should be about it. I'm definitely going to have something else up tomorrow. Probably political, although I do realize the smaller number of people coming here. It's tempting to talk more about the other stuff, but this is my main stretch, if you get what I'm saying. So thank you for watching and have a good day.